Thank you for joining this webinar, which is organized by the International Coaching Federation Switzerland, and it's the framework of International Coaching Week, which is a yearly global celebration of all coaches. And at ICF Switzerland, we have a special work stream dedicated to international organizations and NGOs, and that's the context of this webinar. My name is Saba Imre Mathieu. I coordinate these activities for international organizations and NGOs, and I'm very pleased to welcome you. And in particular, our speaker today is really someone that I am very, very much looking forward to hear. Hartmuth Gieldandowski. He is a professional certified coach from various coaching schools and professional bodies as an ICF ACC, but he's also a CPCC, and all these acronyms of coaching would just indicate how experienced he is. He's an Agile Coach and Coactive Coach. And most importantly for us, for our context, he is the president-elect of International Coaching Federation Switzerland. He's filling that role here today. He'll talk about something really important, which is relational leadership and how leaders can foster good relations in their workplace. So in practical terms, I will now leave the floor to him and go away in the background, but I will be back towards the end where you'll be able to ask questions through the chat, and I'll help out with the chat. I do encourage you to comment through the chat, because in webinars, that's the only way we have to connect with our audience. So if Hartmuth asks questions, or if you want to ask questions or want to make comments, just feel free to constantly write in the chat. Don't wait for orders to write in the chat. I wish you a very nice webinar, and I give the floor to Hartmuth.
Thank you so much, Saba. Yeah, it's a great honor to be here in both, as a president-elect for the Swiss chapter, but also as a participant of this fabulous coaching week we have. Thank you, Saba, for building up this environment also for international organizations, and the possibility for us coaches, contributors to the coaching mission, to come here and speak to each other. I see that also as a way to speak to you and the audience, and to share some of my thoughts of where we are at the moment, and what is maybe also important. So let me share my my presentation I prepared. Okay. So in this presentation is really it's a snapshot of my learning journey, so where I am at the moment. It's also a snapshot of my thinking journey, of where my thoughts are currently focusing on, and I wanted to put that into the context also of organizations, of course, international organizations, but in general, the capacity of us humans to organize ourselves, and it should reflect a little bit of where I think the focus lies for us in the future. So I want to start with an image. So picture a world where AI orchestrates global supply chains. Chatbots answer queries with an uncanny speed, and automation reshapes whole industries. This sounds like a future scenario, a future world, but actually this is our reality. So as the technocratic marvels of efficiency and scale have panned out over the last few decades, these future states, these dystopias, have become reality. So a few writers or influential people have influenced my thinking, my current thinking. So Alan Watts, for example, he reminds us that we do not come into this world, but we come out of it. So as leaves of a tree, we are being born into this world. So it's the world is a place of creation, of organic growth, and not of assembly. And as Alfred North Whitehead also showed us, we are not separate but interconnected, part in a living web of relationships that are not mechanically assembled. So also from my recent continued education in organizational relationship systems coaching, ORSC, another wonderful acronym, we can see that the current global context also is really interwoven, right? Politics, economies, cultures. So we are really beings in an interwoven flow of inter and codependence. So I want to invite you today to explore why in this age of algorithms, the human connection remains the heart of thriving organizations. So drawing from the wisdom of Taoism, Zen Buddhism, but also uncovering these relationship technologies, as I coined them, a little bit ironically, of course. Exploring these practices, how they can amplify trust, empathy, and collaboration, that's what I would like to do with you. So we'll reflect on finite and infinite games and why playing a infinite game is vital for a lasting impact. Coaching can nurture these connections, create resilience, and create also a different human-centered place of work. So in the next maybe 25, 30 minutes, I'll like to navigate limits of technocratic thinking that is predominantly today. I would like to tap into the eternal power of relationships and how to weave coaching into your organizational life. So together we explore also some real world examples, have a look at the leadership role, and also the future of work. And I'd like then to end with a few questions that should spark your own journey continuing from here. So the technocratic marriage, it's basically the chasing of the shadow of control. So in our organizations, we are captivated by a technology promise, precision, predictability, and productivity. AI forecasts trends, automation streamlines tasks, and chatbots serve our customers 24/7. That's a dazzling vision of command and absolute control. But as I said, so in Zen Buddhism teaches us that control is just a mere illusion. It's a mirage. So technology cannot grasp the subtle flow of human emotions or the warmth of trust between human beings. It optimizes processes, but in that it alienates humanity, turning people into employees, turning them into cogs, and customers into mere data points. So Taoism warns against forcing the natural order. When we prioritize algorithms over empathy, we disrupt harmony. Disengagement rises, innovation stalls, and ethical dilemmas grow as data overshadows the true value organizations create. Research shows disengaged employees are less productive and more likely to leave, costing organizations even more in revenue, but also in losses of human potential. This technocratic path is part of what I call, or what's been written about as the finite game mindset. So focusing on short-term wins, but leading to a hollow victory. To thrive, we must embrace the infinite dance of relationships, and that in all dimensions. This eternal dance is at the heart of existence. Again, in Zen's concepts, the interbeing reveals that all things are interconnected. So organizations are not just mere collections of individuals, but living systems woven by relationships. These connections flow like the Tao, ever-changing and alive. To nurture them, it is the practice of wu-wei, the effortless action, allowing trust and empathy to unfold naturally. Organizational psychology supports this, with teams with higher relationship intelligence thriving exponentially. We'll look at an example from Buurtzorg, a Dutch healthcare organization, which in 2017 unleashed self-managing nurse teams guided by trust and collaboration, redesigning care to prioritize patients, cutting costs dramatically, and boosting satisfaction exponentially. Their success flowed from relationships, not the technology alone. So these connection ripples beyond the teams, fostering loyal customers and strong partnerships beyond the organization. In an automation-centered world, the human ability to connect is a neglected superpower. A coaching culture rooted in Zen's beginner mindset keeps us open and curious, letting relationships evolve with grace. So what are these relationship technologies? They are practices that honor the dance of connection and make explicitly available what nurtures deep connections. These 5, which I picked here, are just, of course, a subset. So this itself is an almost infinite set of factors. But the collaborative agreements, they help to create clear, organic, and lightweight norms to foster trust that flow like a river, finding its course naturally. So they are not forced on people. Perspective alignment invites and honors harmonizing views into a shared purpose and understanding, like notes, musical notes aligning to a symphony and not vice versa. Practices like system mapping, they gently and consciously reveal the interconnected web of relationships, again like a Zen garden and its hidden patterns in the Zen garden. Diversity exploration is not only embracing the differences, it's not only about embracing the differences as elements of the whole, but actually elevating them to a new norm of beauty and expression of truth. And last but not least, of course, emotional intelligence cultivation. So fostering a presence and empathy where at the heart a leader is in itself. All these elements thrive in a coaching culture. So having a space of mindful dialogue and continuous learning, like the Tao, coaching guides without forcing, helping individuals and teams to navigate the complexity that is ever growing. As an example, maybe a team that is in a conflicted situation might be coached through an alignment dialogue to reveal their deeper understanding about divergent perspectives and directions. And in that revealing dialogue, transform the tension that might be residing within the team into the innovations energy that is as well within the team's realm. So let's have a look at briefly just at 2 very, very distinct examples out of many examples which are already available or which are already here in today's world, right? So one I already briefly mentioned Buurtzorg, the Dutch care provider. Through their self-managing nurse teams, they prioritized the relationships with their immediate patients and customers, as well as their own team boundaries, and were effectively eliminating central bureaucracy. And through that, revolutionizing healthcare from within, basically the care itself for the Dutch healthcare system. So this company is not a small company. It's about 12,000 people, and the central, bureaucratic remains is about 30 people strong. So really minuscule compared to the rest of the organization. And I think their coaching-driven approach here embodies what I referred earlier as the Wu Wei approach. So really harmonizing or achieving this harmony through a deep level of trust and ease. And another really fascinating example is a Chinese company called Haier. It's a Chinese giant of 80,000 people and one of the fastest growing technology enterprises in the Chinese market. And Haier embodied a different perspective on how they shape their organization. They call it Rendan Hei, which replaces hierarchy with autonomous units called micro-enterprises. So by fostering entrepreneurship and direct self-organized ecosystem collaboration, Haier's coaching culture drives agility and innovation like nothing else seen before. But it resembles, again, a Zen garden, which is really simple in its structure, but yet very profound. So in stark contrast, a lot of technocratic organizations chasing these finite wins and finite solutions often face the disengagement, deep ecosystem tensions, and what we often see and hear leading to legal battles or ethical battles, and ultimately stagnation in their market and customer base. So the examples of companies like Buurtzorg and Haier show that playing the infinite game through relationships leads to enduring success and innate resilience in those companies and markets. Looks a little bit funny on my screen at the moment, this slide. Anyway, so leadership as a dance of presence, actually. Leadership in Zen spirit is not control, but presence. So great leaders embody relationship intelligence. That means listening deeply and acting with empathy and filled with resonance, like a Tai Chi master, firm yet very fluid. A coaching culture equips them with the foundational skills and tools like perspective alignment and systemic thinking to guide an organization with grace, wisdom, and fearlessness, not with control and command. So imagine having such a leader who fosters a safe space for dialogue, embracing vulnerability, him or herself, and really creating this trust. Their team will thrive. Innovation will happen naturally without a lot of noise and fuss and external impulses. And in a complex world as we have it today, successful leadership is more about the being of such a presence than the doing. So just as a dance so just in the same way as a dance is the essence of a presence and not of reaching a place, so is presence leadership that inspires the infinite game. So the future of work is, in my opinion, and in my view, this shift also to an infinite game. The future of work will be remote. It will be global, and it will definitely be automated. But it demands on how we play this game. If we play it finite or with an infinite game mindset. Finite games seek winners and losers. Infinite games, as the author James Carse notes, seek only to keep playing, right? Organizations chasing finite wins, like profits, market share, invariably sacrifice resilience for an accumulation of brittleness. Infinite players nurture relationships, adapt and innovate endlessly and effortlessly. Again, like a river, finding its own way through the relationship with nature. Again, here a coaching mindset fosters, or a coaching culture fosters this mindset in a really relentless way. Practicing the integration of the somatic, the feeling, the embodiment, the empathetic self, and of course the cognitive self, builds a deeper diversity and empathy across a whole organization and its various different cultures. And as automation helps us handle more and more of the world of the tasks and activities an organization also has to, bear, the human skills, the creativity, the connections, that what defines what the future will look like, can actually thrive. So coaching is this infinite practice, this cultivation of self-awareness and collective intelligence for a game without an end. How would you implement such relationship technologies? So to play this infinite game, an organization must weave the relationship technologies, as I framed them here, into their very fabric. So harmonizing technology, humanity, and a coaching mindset into a collective approach. And of course, there will be challenges. Challenges like the resistance to soft skills, right? The illusion that only measurable outcomes matter. And of course, also technocratic inertia. We've always done it like that. We're good at that. Why not continue? So here, Taoism teaches us again to flow and not to force. So these hurdles are opportunities, again, to grow. Start by embedding coaching into the leadership curriculum. It might be a good start. But actually, teaching presence, empathy, and systemic awareness, and empowering future leaders to model relationship intelligence is what powers the infinite game. So building this vast network of internal coaches to scale skills, but also these educational approaches, and creating a self-sustaining ecosystem of trust will help leaders to emerge. Of course, partnering with bodies like the International Coaching Federation and of course also the EMCC for certification standards and also for establishing ethical and value-rooted practices will help to embody this global wisdom. Technology, like any tool, must serve humanity. Full stop. Collaboration tools like Zoom and, of course, AI, they amplify connection, but are depending on a trustful relationship between human beings. So a coaching culture can ensure that technology has actually the very foundation, the very ground to fulfill its goal, meaning to enhance the human touch. Measuring impact through engagement, retention, and innovation, knowing the deepest truth transcends numbers. So this is not measured by numbers. And by flowing with these practices, organizations can create a much more resilient system where they actually can thrive within an infinite game. So in conclusion, or in bringing it together, in today's very focused, very pointed technocratic age, I think the eternal wisdom of relationships shines even brighter, but it's not obvious. And as Margaret Wheatley said, relationships are all there is. Everything in the universe only exists because it is in relationship to everything else. So through relationship technologies and coaching, we honor this truth. We can nurture trust, understanding, and belonging. And that's the invisible dance that fuels motivation, dedication, and innovation. So I'd like to invite you in the chat, or with us here through the chat, to think about this in an infinite game for your own organization, for yourself, not as a destiny, but also as a journey. And reflect with me maybe on a few questions I like to pose here. So one question would be, what relationships in your organization could flow more naturally if approached with a beginner's mind? How might coaching help you play the infinite game with more grace and lightness? And what small steps can you take today to weave connections which are tighter, broader into your workplace? So thank you for listening to me, rambling here, and let's carry forward this dance together. And of course, you can stay in contact with me on LinkedIn or here through my email address at the Coaching Federation. And happy to answer any questions or remarks that might be upcoming in the chat.
Wow, thank you very much, Hartmuth, for this very inspiring, I must say, and very enlightening vision of what the future could be with this more humane approach to relationships in organizations, and in fact rethinking the purpose of organizations altogether. Well, thank you. You're sharing this the slide of eternal dance of relationships. Which is the most important part of this, Hartmut?
Well, I couldn't pick one one most important part, but I think it's like you said, it's not very novel, right? It's really, I just realized that how everything is already here, right? And most of the really important questions have already been asked in terms of like how do we sustainably and resilient organize ourselves as human beings. And it was really this revelation for me that the interconnectedness is really at the foundational level, right? But you can only see that if you can see it from a non-mechanistic viewpoint, right? So if you see it as a living system, as a continuously evolving and changing system, you can also embrace it with that open and curious mindset, right? Because you can never fully understand it, but you're able to appreciate it. So this brings me then basically to Wu Wei, right? So to the effortless action. I think we try too much. We hold on too much to limiting beliefs instead of actually letting go of a lot of expectations and directions, and really let the system find its way. So it's not new, right? So these are like I showed. I mean, I was reading a lot on these Zen Buddhism and Taoism recently, so that's why it influenced my thinking here. These are thousands of years old, but I think they just got forgotten in that whole technological, technocratic frenzy we are currently in. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. That the technological frenzy is exactly what we're experiencing. There's a comment from Helmut who says in many organizations there are island of best practice, surfacing the human dimension and potential. And we need to build more around these islands and allies at grassroots level to engage the organization.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all of these islands. They bear wisdom. They bear truth. They, but they cannot multiply themselves, right? Most of the time, or are limited by also their own, borders. So that's where the leadership really comes into play, right? So playing here an infinite game that is willing also to invest maybe into connections that might maybe not at the beginning, might not really look like the best thing to do, but panning out in the long term by understanding really that the broader connections. This is what differs between I would say a traditional company and a modern company, like for example the examples I made, right? So again, hire a Chinese company that started in one very specific segment and industry, is now across multiple hundreds of industries and one of the fastest growing companies. There were a lot of uncertainties in all these, directions. But the CEO, Chang Ruimin, he trusted in the network, in the relationships. So that was his wisdom as well. And it's so funny, right? So when you read his story, it almost sounds like he really read the management books, which our manager also should have read, right? But he really took them to heart, right? So he read Deming, he read Peter Drucker, he read into all those forethinkers, and he really took those lessons really by heart. Yeah.
And what would you say, Hartmut, how would all of this, how can all of this play out in organizations, for example, that are always in an emergency mode? I'm thinking about humanitarian organizations, and we may have some representatives here because not all UN agencies or NGOs are in emergency, but a lot of them are working in emergency. How can this play out and how would it be helpful?
It's a good question. I think when you already say emergency, then again, this is already a frame. It's already a condition, right? Reflected in of course in the intention of that organization. And don't get me wrong, right? All these things all these intentions are really important and necessary for humanity. But sometimes I think trusting again here, trusting the people we try to help, also with that they know what they need, very simply said, maybe sometimes helps as well, right? So thinking about what is my connection to that other system in terms of culture, society, um, you know, um, condition, ecological condition, and how do I connect to that? How do I relate to that? And being, again, so to speak, in this Wu Wei thinking, so in this not forcing thinking, not forcing help, but actually letting it flow. Maybe that would, make maybe certain things just easier. I don't know. I don't think I have, enough experience also, but It's just from connecting here the dots.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So, do we have any more comments or questions? It's almost a philosophical topic, huh? Julia, thanks a lot, Hartmuth, for a thought-provoking session indeed. Can you comment on the impact systemic infrastructures may have in potentially diminishing benefits of relationships? How can we leverage relationships to overcome challenges rooted in structures?
Mm-hmm. It's a really good question. Thank you, Julia. Multiple questions in here, right? It is definitely a deep philosophical question as well, right? So the impact of systemic infrastructures have, so everything we do as human beings, right? Building cities, building societies, building technology, it changes everything else around us. And again, I think we're not always, and we cannot be, right? We cannot always, foresee what these changes will be. But what is clearly visible at the moment, at least, or in the last 10 years, we can read about that in newspapers and everywhere, and we see it in the health and psychological and physical health statistics of countries. We see that through technology, or through that attenuation of technology in our societies, the relationships between human beings definitely have taken a not only positive impact but also a negative impact, right? So there's always like these two sides to technology, the internet, social media, and all these things, that of course they enable us here now to talk, right, across time and boundaries and physical spaces, and make new connections. But on the other hand, of course, it is also it's a very powerful tool we have at our hand, and it wants to be wielded with wisdom. And I think we don't always have that wisdom. So, especially, of course, looking here at the younger population, this is definitely a big problem there, right? So, how can we leverage relationships to overcome these challenges? I think exactly in connecting the dots, right? Connecting the relationships, so strengthening and tightening also the web. Again, it sounds counterintuitive or paradoxically, but using the technology in a way that it helps us strengthen this network, right? Like we do now in the coaching week here, for example.
There's an interesting comment from Helmut again. It's rather long, so I'll let you have a look at it so that you can elaborate your reply.
Absolutely. The classical, the predominant existing management theories, the financial ecosystem, the money system around these are systems that impact the way we see reality, the way we perceive reality, the way we and what we human beings do is, right, we categorize everything into good and bad, at least here in the Western world predominantly. And so absolutely, it is very difficult to break apart, or to stand also apart as a company, as an organization, and to play a different game, right? So coming back to the finite and infinite game. So if you're a football club, right, and playing football just for the game, for the next game, then of course it's very difficult to be a football club that just plays for the fun of playing football, and being able to play football maybe for the rest of your life. So you will, of course, you will perform against certain measures or metrics. You will probably perform very poorly. but again, coming back to what is really important to you. And I think even though it's a few companies, it is not none, right? And that is the proof that if you really want to embrace these thoughts, again, like the Chinese company Hire, and there's definitely also not everything working, always smooth and everything, but that is not life, right? Life is not smooth. So the thing is if you really want to do it, it is possible, right? It's not impossible because we have proof that it's possible. But it takes courage, it takes deep understanding, and also the willingness to also lean into these relationships again. Lean into the trust. Yeah, and as I said, so I love to stay connected, continue the conversation. I think it's a conversation that will continue. And yeah, I'm really happy to be able to briefly showcase it here.
Thank you so much, Hartmuth. Very, very, very deep thought in your presentation. And I think that all of us will continue considering these points and trying to make sense of how they can be applied in our daily life at work, and so many leads, so many tips in order to be able to do that. So I'm very grateful to you for this talk. And with this, I thank you very much. I give you the last word, Hartmuth, before we close.
Thank you for all the participants. I'm really happy to have had you here. Let's stay in touch and connections, and I'm really happy to hear from you on those thoughts. And thank you so much again, Saba, for hosting us here.
Okay, thank you. Bye, Hartmuth.